Yo, gang, welcome back to Trollbot Studios, and this is it, it's here, it's finally here, the finale to the history of Dragon Ball has arrived. Let's get that celebration button. There it is. Now, welcome to the history of Dragon Ball Part 17, also known as, in case you couldn't tell, the final part of the history of Dragon Ball. So, now, let's go for that good old recap. Yee! Previously, on the history of Dragon Ball, I took a look at Battle of Gods and Resurrection F, and how's that renewed interest in Dragon Ball films after the disaster that was Dragon Ball Evolution? Then, I took a look at Dragon Ball Kai Phase 2, aka Dragon Ball Z Kai, the final chapters, and how that was released in Japan and the US, and I temporarily talked about Let It Burn, the Dragon Ball Z Kai song, not the Usher song. Then, I temporarily dug into Dragon Ball Super and talked about how it succeeded Dragon Ball Kai, and I talked about its manga. I also temporarily talked about its animation too. And boy, I did not leave episode 5 out of the equation. Now, let's get into the video, and for the final time, in 2018, after the Dragon Ball Super anime had ended, a movie was released called Dragon Ball Super Broly. This movie had everyone psyched for two main reasons. Number one, it was the first Dragon Ball Super film, which was already seen as a much better anime than GT. And also, it featured the return of fan favorites Broly and Paragus. Now, let's briefly talk about Tadayoshi Yamamuro. Tadayoshi Yamamuro began on Dragon Ball back on, get this, episode 7 on the original series, aka the Ox King on Fire Mountain. The episode is also significant because it's when Goku and Chi-Chi first meet. However, he really didn't get to spearhead a project until Dragon Ball Z Movie 8, Broly the Legendary Super Saiyan, aka Broly's debut, where he took over from Minoru Maeda as supervising the animation for the Dragon Ball movies. All the while, the anime was taken over by Katsuyoshi Nakatsuru. Yamamuro eventually took over for Dragon Ball Super. However, ironically, Dragon Ball Super Broly would be the first Dragon Ball production that Tadayoshi Yamamuro wasn't involved in. Instead, the animation was spearheaded by Naohiro Shintani. Anyway, back to Dragon Ball Super Broly. This movie was considered the best Dragon Ball movie up to this point. Like Battle of Gods. And Naohiro Shintani only added to the spectacle. But this was not the biggest surprise because 4 years later, Dragon Ball Super Superhero was released. This movie was a big surprise because it brought Dragon Ball to 3D. Yup. So far, to me, it looks weird and kind of unnatural. Yeah, I have really nothing to say on this film, except I really don't like it. Mainly because Orange Piccolo looks ugly, Beast Gohan looks ugly as well, and by amazing coincidence, Beast Gohan looks almost exactly like a drawing I did back in 5th or maybe 6th grade. Yep, I think it was in the 5th grade. Also, they made Cell Bio Broly. Why did they make Cell Max a glorified Bio Broly ripoff? and Bio Broly was never good to begin with. Also, I was not terribly impressed by what Broly did to the character of Broly. Because Broly in Dragon Ball Super is better written, but the original Dragon Ball Z Broly was just a savage. He was a menace that you would only see in the hood. Evidence of this shows when in the original Broly the Legendary Super Saiyan, Broly asked Goku, word for word, Kakarot, how much do you love your son? Like, dude! Anyways, I think that's it. Besides the fact that there's gonna be a new anime coming out this year, I guess? I think that's it. So, overall, we go from a story that wasn't expected to go long, but has evolved into one of the biggest media franchises out at this point, and made characters such as Goku and Vegeta and Frieza household names. And with Goku probably a bit too literally. So you'd usually expect the next time, but there is no next time since this is the final episode. So, until next video, later fools!